This is the Underground Leadership Movement, episode number 5. Thanks for spending some time with me today. My name is Jeremy, and we're going to get right into it. So, episodes of the past, I've kind of discussed how I wish that some of these topics I could kind of put in order of importance and, label them in a specific way to just lay this program out. And I just don't think it's possible. I'm definitely starting with the most important things, most important topics that I feel, but to truly label this is number one as importance in leadership, this is number two. I don't feel like I can do that. But that being said, what we're going to talk about today is definitely very, very high on that list for me. And if I were to have to come up with just a line in the sand, number one characteristic, I guess you could say, of a good leader, I I would probably lean towards humility. Do I think that that's the most important thing? If you had only one, I don't know, but it is very important. It is very, very important, and so that's what we're going to talk about today is humility. And this is a thought that I had this morning, and I'm just going to put it out there and probably get back to it here in a little bit, just let you think about it. But it is a little corny, maybe, but I like it, and we'll see where it goes. So, humility is the soil required for the seeds of knowledge to bloom into personal growth. So, like I said, I'll just leave that there for a second, and we'll kind of dip back into that as we go into this. But I want to share one of my favorite kind of quotes as far as what we're talking about, humility and personal growth and things like that. And it's from, and I'll probably screw his name up, but Epictetus. And he says, it's impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And I think that pretty much sums up exactly where my mind is on the direction of where we're going here today. If you feel like you know it all, if you feel like, so and so isn't going to be able to teach you anything because you know more than them or you have more experience than them, you're right. You are absolutely right. There is nothing that you're going to learn if that is the mindset you have. If you are so full of ego that you cannot allow yourself to think, hey, this person probably has something that I can learn from. She experienced something that I need to learn from so I don't have to experience. He's done things that I could really gain some knowledge from. If we don't have that mindset, then there will never be personal growth because you have to have the humility to admit somebody knows more than you do. And I wish that that wasn't as prevalent of a mindset as I feel like it is today. And hopefully that's changing. Hopefully hopefully the work of so many great people out there are changing that for the better. But that's a big deal. If you truly think that you know more than somebody else, if you truly think that there's nothing that they can offer you to learn and grow from, that's a very flawed mindset. It's a very ego driven mindset. And it is a mindset that will have you stuck where you're at. And if that's where you want to be, that's fine. That's not where I want to be. I do not want to be where I was yesterday. I want to be where I am today, which is hopefully maybe just a little bit better than yesterday. And I cannot achieve that if I don't have the humility to say, okay, if I want to be better than I was yesterday, that means that there was something yesterday that I did, I, actions, thoughts, whatever, that weren't exactly very good. And I need to learn from those. I need to move on from those. I need to gain a better mindset. And all of this requires humility. So personal growth isn't built on success, I don't feel. It's built on failures. It's built on the lessons learned from those failures. And this process cannot exist without humility. If you don't have humility, then the failures you go through, you're going to find excuses. You're going to find people to blame it on. You're going to find reasons that it was not your fault. The failures that you you experience, the lessons that are there to learn from those, are going to be completely wasted events if we don't have the humility to say, I messed up. I should have done this better. I should have, saw this. I should have listened to this, and I made a mistake. But I know now that I need to do better in this area. That's where the lessons learned come from. And what makes those situations even more of a great situation is when you share that with others. So you're not only learning from your mistakes, but you're allowing others to learn from your mistakes so that they don't make those mistakes, hopefully. And so they're learning without even having to make mistakes. And that's when the role of a leader or mentor or whatever you want to call it, that's when it really gets to be a great thing. You're allowing others to learn from the mistakes you've made. You're allowing others to learn from the embarrassments you've had. You're allowing others to learn from the times that you have failed. And that is very, very important as a leader. And to do that takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of humility to do it just personally. If I screwed up a hose lay yesterday, pulling a line and just messed it up, for me to just have an internal conversation with myself to say, I messed that up. I need to get better. I will get better. That that's a step towards humility. It takes humility to have that conversation. But to go even farther, to set your crew down or your shift down or the department or whatever, anything beyond that, the levels of humility drastically increase because you're putting yourself out there. And, whether it's two other people you tell or 10, 20, 100, it, it, the incremental amounts of humility go up alongside that. And so, it's hard, but it is so, so important because, like we just talked about, I am using my situations of embarrassment, failure, mistakes, all that to help others hopefully not do the same thing before they ever do it. So not only are you helping them, but you're also helping the citizens that you'll possibly have negative outcomes erased before they even happen because those firefighters or whoever it is aren't making a mistake that they probably could have, but they learn from you. And so hopefully I'm not rambling there down a rabbit hole, but I just want to really push the importance of having humility to admit our mistakes and allowing others to learn from it. I think it's so important as leaders to truly take advantage of those situations. Another really, really important aspect of bringing humility and leadership together is that when we use it in the area of training, we cannot be afraid to fail. If I'm talking to basically talking to the station officers right now, or even chief officers, we cannot be afraid to fail in training. And where I'm going with that is I know I see it all the time. I know there are a lot of station officers just in my circles that I see, they use, well, I'm a captain, so pulling lines isn't my job, forcing doors isn't my job. EMS isn't my job. I'm letting my people who are doing those skills, I'm letting them get better. But I'm here. I'm involved in training because I'm doing my part. I'm talking on the radio. I'm playing the role of dispatch. Whatever. But they use that as a scapegoat. But what is truly at the heart of that is they're afraid to fail in front of their people. Somebody that is put up on a pedestal, and they're an officer and they wear gold and we wear silver. He probably knows how to do every skill that, just out of the textbook. It's not real life. It's just not. We cannot be afraid to fail in front of people, especially our crews. The benefit that comes from, say I mess up on a training drill and my crew sees that. What is that going to tell them? It's going to tell them, hey, he is willing to step up and do skills that he's really not even doing at, real life emergency scenes. He's willing to put himself out there, and he's willing to possibly fail. So I don't really have a reason to not do it myself, because I'm the one that actually is doing it. Hopefully that will push your crew members to gain some drive towards training, if that's not there, especially. But I think it's a very important thing for us to do, is involve ourselves in training. That's a good reason, kind of the motivation for others to step up and not be afraid to fail as well. But another key to that is we need to be able to teach our firefighters. And if we aren't doing this training, if we aren't pulling lines, if we aren't forcing doors, throwing ladders, searching rooms, everything that they're doing, if we aren't doing those things as well, we aren't going to be good enough to teach anybody. And that's our job. I wish the station officers were more involved in the training of their people. And we cannot rely on the training divisions, the battalion chiefs, whoever else, whatever. If you're in a situation where your department is great in that area, that's awesome. I hope that you're taking advantage of that. But for the most part, that's probably not going to be the case. Is that a reason to say, it's not my fault, training division sucks? No, it's not. It's my job to do it. I don't care if I have a good training division and they're doing good things and teaching us, they're teaching us things on a regular basis. I don't care if that's there or not. I still need to be implementing things in between. That is my job. That is my job as a station officer. And so, for you younger brothers and sisters out there that are either brand new officers or coming up, soon to be, or even just, you want to be in the future, please remember that this is our job. The responsibility of becoming an officer goes beyond, I have to make sure the reports are done. I have to make sure that everybody's at work on time. I have to make sure that station looks clean when chief comes by. That's nothing. I don't even care about any of that stuff. There's so much more weight to it than that. And we're not going to get into it right now, but you have the responsibility of the readiness of your crew. And I hope that everybody out there that is in that role takes that very seriously, because it is a very serious statement. You have the responsibility of the readiness of your crew. And I know I'm kind of stretching out a little bit right here, but to pull it back in, if we don't have the humility to take ourselves down to the firefighter level and learn those skills, just like our firefighters are, then we aren't able to truly help our people become ready. We are not truly able to teach them the things that they need to be taught on a regular basis, to be sharp at it, to be ready when something happens. And so at the base of all of that sits humility, because I guarantee you it takes some humility for an officer, especially an officer that's been out of the game, the firefighting game for any amount of time. It takes a lot of humility to put yourself in that role, get your hands back on those tools, back on that hose, and test yourself. Put yourself in a position to show how well or how terrible your skills are. But that's what we need. We need that. And if you're not good at something, no different than a firefighter, you need to get better at it. And so that's something else that I really, really wanted to push in this conversation of humility. You know, you just got to put yourself out there. You've got to put your crew in the best position to succeed. And it all hinges on how much humility you're willing to put out there. So something else, and I guess we can get back into what I started out with, and I'll say it again. Humility is the soil required for the seeds of knowledge to bloom into personal growth. And like I said, this literally just kind of popped into my head this morning, but I truly believe in that metaphor. The humility is that good soil, that potting soil that you want to put something in to really start the growth process, to get it going, to really just get an amazing amount of growth out of something. As far as the seeds of knowledge, I almost think of that like, oh, I just got back from a really, really great conference. Listened to some really great presentations by some really great people. And the amount of seeds of knowledge that were thrown around that place was amazing. But if I don't have that humility that we talked about right up front, if I don't have the humility to truly absorb that, to absorb those seeds of knowledge, they're just they're being wasted. I have to humble myself and absorb that stuff and truly take it in and find what is good, what I can use, what I can't use, maybe what I can learn from. And that is where that personal growth comes from. Humble yourself, take in those seeds of knowledge, allow them to become personal growth. So, corny or not, I think it's a good metaphor, and I'm gonna stick with it for a little bit. So, something that is really helpful in kind of maintaining humility is accountability. And I think that we need to really encourage honest feedback and accountability from our people. Let me know when I don't seem to be very humble. Let me know when I'm kind of taking a back seat when I probably should be stepping up some. That's how we're going to learn. If I'm relying on myself to really catch all these little mistakes or these little areas that I need to be better in, I'm going to miss a lot of it. So that humility and that humility, that feedback and that accountability is very, very key to maintaining a good level of humility. We're kind of stepping back a second into where we were talking about earlier, the training and the teaching. We've got to be good teachers, like I talked about, and there is nothing that will expose the gaps in your knowledge and the gaps in your skills quicker than teaching. You get out there and say it's forcible entry day, and you're going to be the one that steps up and kind of leads that training. I guarantee you're going to find that real quick you need to be a little bit better than you are. It's one thing to go out and be the student and kind of go through the evolutions and do the skills and feel like you're getting good at it. It's another thing to step up and be the one responsible for giving that knowledge, because there's a big difference there. And like I said, there is nothing that will expose the gaps quicker than that. You know, and how do you deal with that? You can't avoid it. You know, just like I talked about earlier, the officers using, the different excuses to not involve themselves in the kind of the task level training. We can't stay away from being a teacher just because we're afraid to show our weaknesses, our lack of knowledge in certain areas. We cannot do that. We have to be humble enough to get in there and teach. And when those weaknesses come up, when those gaps come up, we have to be honest and humble enough to say, man, you're right. I guess I had never thought about it that way. I guess I haven't actually tried it that way. That's a pretty good technique. I'll have to work on that some. You know, I think that that's probably another area that we struggle in, because again, it takes humility, and humility, it hurts. Stepping up and saying that you don't know as much as one of your students when you're actually teaching them, that hurts, but it happens. And what is the best thing that comes out of that situation? If you're humble about it, you learn. You learn from that student. You learn that your skills have a gap that you need to work on and that you can work on. And so that is what we're talking about. That humility being there allows you to learn from that situation and take it and use it as an area of personal growth. You know, I feel like, everybody says the fire service is full of, the air quote alpha male mindsets and personalities. And I don't know how much I agree with that or not. I know there's a lot of it, but I wouldn't say that we're just the firehouses are full of them, because I see a lot of the other side of that coin. But going with that is a lot of situations you see where people that their egos are so just just kind of entrenched in within them that they cannot admit that they're wrong. And that's where I'm going right now. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to have to stop what you're doing, stop, a mindset, stop a message, whatever we're talking about, and change, change directions. I just as something on here is just as an example. It's okay to say, I know I've been very vocal on my stand against VES, but due to some great studies and classes that I've now looked into, I realized that my stance was unfounded and wrong. And I want to change where I stand on that subject. It's okay. It's okay, even if you're somebody for years that has drawn that line in the sand and took a side of whatever it is. If you find out that you're on the wrong side, it's okay to step over to the right side. In fact, I would say I I truly hope that there's nobody out there that would dig their heels in and stand their ground, even though they know they're on the wrong side of that line. If that's what's going on, I can't even get into what deeper issues are happening there, because if you see a problem with where you're at and you see the solution on the other side of that line, humble yourself, take responsibility for the wrong stance you took, and get on the right side of that line. That's all we can do. We can stop where we're headed right there, turn ourselves around, and start heading in the right direction. There is no reason to remain on the path towards a wrong direction. There's absolutely no reason for it. Be humble enough to admit you were wrong, turn around, and start headed in the right direction. So, you know, nobody goes through their career without making mistakes, without, running their mouth about something we shouldn't, without, like I just talked about, drawing a line in the sand when, we didn't even really need to. But we all need to grow from those experiences. Those are just another thing that we need to grow from. I've had several situations in the past just 4 or 5 months that have been a mental struggle for me, that have been definitely some of those drawing a line in the sand moments for me personally. And have I been completely right? Probably not. Okay. I'll be humble enough to say, no, I wasn't completely right, even though I don't want to say that. Have I learned from those things? I'm trying. I One thing I have learned, and one thing I have to tell myself every day over and over and over again, is that I have got to focus on my circle. My small circle has got to be my focus. When I start spreading out and start wanting to get bigger, wanting my focus to get bigger, wanting to make broader changes and broader improvements, that's when the problems arise. And I have to step back and say, you have got to be happy with being able to affect your small circle. You have got to humble yourself enough to step back and be happy with doing the small things right, because that is a blessing in itself. So I've got to be better about taking advantage of those blessings, being happy with those blessings, and just focus on that small circle. That's one area I've definitely had to kind of learn and grow from personally. I've had some low points in which I was not motivated to grow every day. And this is another kind of career roller coaster type conversation. I would imagine everybody has been through those times. There have been lots of contributing factors to those things, such as surviving lengthy periods of being a single father of four, promoting to a rank that I just did not like. I hated where I was at that time, and not really having anybody to help nudge me towards daily growth. And so, I could sit here and say, those times, those down times, those less motivated times, that I can blame it on those things. Very easily blame it on any of those things, and a whole list that I didn't just go over. I mean, that's a nothing list compared to what I could sit here and start blaming things on. But I didn't get past those times until I was humble enough to say, this is my fault that I'm not motivated. This is my fault that I'm not enjoying work. This is my fault that I'm not as good as I should be. And once I did that, once I truly humbled myself enough to start seeing I needed help in certain areas, that's when that help began to arrive. That's when the motivation started skyrocketing. That's when the inspiration started to come out. That's when my message started to really start pouring out of me. And none of that would have happened if I would have sat there and just been okay with where I was at, being an unmotivated lieutenant, which would have spread into a unmotivated captain, which would have in turn spread into leading crews for 3 years now as a captain that were unmotivated, that were not as good as they should have been. And it's a little eye-opening to me to think about that. And I am truly, truly blessed and appreciative of everything and everyone that has went into that journey. Because, I this is not me. This is not a path that I would have ever been on if it weren't for a lot of work from other people and a plan way bigger than myself that I am blessed enough to be a part of. And if it weren't for the humility that I had to take a step back and say, I need to learn some things from some other people. And so I just wanted to share that because there's a lot of people out there that are in that spot. They're not motivated right now. They're not inspired firefighters. And it's easy to get there. But it's also easy to get out of it. You just got to know how. You just got to start reaching out. You just got to start looking for ways to get out of that hole. And I think it's our job as the people on the other side of that to reach out to those that are struggling. Reach out to those that they used to be go-getters, and they used to love the job, and they used to be great at what they did. And they got a bad attitude now, and on and on and on. Maybe there's a reason for that we don't see. Maybe they just need somebody to pull them up, to dust them off, to push them in the right direction, to inspire them, and to get fired back up. That is up to us. And that is what I am so excited to try to do. And it's a way to pay it forward, because I am sitting here in front of this camera right now talking about this stuff because of somebody else that poured their time, their energy, their life into me. And I don't mean one somebody else, a lot of people, but specifically a couple for sure that I could sit there and point a laser at to say that I am here because of them. And so now that, I am on the journey, now that I see the other side of it and how much fun it is to love the job, to train and try to grow every day, I want to share that. I want to drag people from that low point up to where I'm at. And I hope that we can all do the same. And I am way, way deep into a rabbit hole here, so I apologize for that. I'll start wrapping it up. Another area of humility that I want to kind of hit on real quick before I start wrapping it up, and is the biggest area that I need to work on, is basically becoming humble enough to build relationships with people or leaders that you don't agree with, people that you may not respect, and anyone else whose values and character don't line up with mine. I cannot express how hard this is for me. I have figured out here in the past year that I am a terrible follower. I am a awful follower. I love being a leader. I love everything about being a leader, but I am not a very good follower. And maybe that's skewed because of just some personal situations that I've been through. But I find myself butting heads with a lot of people above me over and over again. And I don't necessarily know how to just be okay with some of those situations without that. And I think some of it, I will say this, do I have areas to grow in this conversation? Being a better follower? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got to be better at it. But are some of these situations I'm talking about, do they arise for good reasons? And I will say without a doubt, even more strongly, that they absolutely happen because of where I stand as a leader. If I feel my people are being mistreated, if I feel my people are not being treated fairly, I guarantee you I will be vocal about that. That is one of my lines. That is a line. That is a line that I have established as a leader. And that's very far from my personality. But that is who I have said I will be, and that's who I will be as a leader. And so, being vocal in certain situations because of that has gotten me into a little bit of trouble. But I did it for the right reason. I might not have done it in the best way I could have. So, yes, there are always areas that we can grow, that I can grow, but I do it for the right reasons. And there's no doubt in my mind for that. So, the last thing I'll bring up is the mixture or the balance of pride and humility. Pride is a funny word. It can be used in such a good way and it can be used in such a bad way. And it goes right along with ego, or I'm sorry, with humility. You know, pride is great. To be proud of who you are, take pride in your crew and department and so on. It's a good thing. But it's a fine line, and equal parts of humility have to be blended with that pride to keep from getting arrogant and complacent. So it's a balance. We pride in who we are and our crew, our department, our equipment, our our training, our message, whatever. It's a good thing. It's so important. But we have to keep it balanced. We can't take it too far. I think that there are some things that I say and that I've got to kind of be careful of. And one of the things that I like to say, and it's on our writing assignment sheets, is when red 3 arrives, things get better. And I can see very easily how somebody would see that as a very arrogant statement. But it's not. It's not arrogant at all. You know, I say them because of the pride that I have in my crew and the trust that I have in their abilities and training. That's where it comes from. And so, there's a difference, and I know some of those things are what probably turn off some of the kind of the fence riders. You got the hard chargers that are very strong willed and say things like that I just said that I say. And sometimes those turn off those people that may be on the fence. So we got to kind of watch what we're saying, how we're saying it, and be humble about it. It's okay to know that we're a great crew and that we're going to try our best when we're not on emergencies to prepare ourselves for when we are. Or does that mean that we're never going to mess up? No, it doesn't mean that. But we know that that's the case. But we can be humble about it as well. And so there's definitely a mix there. They can coexist, and that's where I'll leave that. Really, this is the about all I have to say about humility. Obviously, it's a topic that I feel very strongly about. I don't even know how long I've been on here. I apologize if it's running too late, but it is so important. We have got to exercise that humility. We've got to take a step back and say, somebody out there knows more than we do. And I need to step up and go find it. I need to get better. I need to learn. I need to grow. And I have got to have humility for any of that to happen. So I'll leave you with where we started. Humility is the soil required for the seeds of knowledge to bloom into personal growth. Thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that you reach out to me if you have any questions, any feedback. We will probably look at maybe getting another clubhouse room started just to talk about a little bit of this. I'm excited to get back into it and excited to hear what you all think and gain from this. So thank you. Until next time, as always, please stay safe, stay humble, and do work.